Next 7 hours important for this daily candle. How it closes is going to dictate a lot in the short term, but it's the zoomed out, it's the game-changing dynamic market structure and supply shock that is happening right now that we have to zoom out and take note of, because we can zoom in on the charts all day, and we're going to zoom in on price action of Bitcoin right now. But what's happening on the macro and the potential for the all-time high parabolic move for Bitcoin this cycle is like nothing we've seen before. So that's what I want to discuss on the macro on this chart on Bitcoin is we have our targets just in a general normal cycle. But what if this is not a general normal cycle? What if something is happening right now that we've never seen happen before? Hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way in, and let's just jump into the video. First thing, I just want to start with a key data point. The last 30 days has seen more than $3 billion per day entering the Bitcoin network. Now, before we dive into this analysis, I'm going to really talk about some targets to the upside. I want to go over something. I just posted this, a Bitcoin supply shock post. You can see all the countries there, everything that's happening with countries coming on board and looking to adopt Bitcoin, to get into crypto, to put into play a Bitcoin reserve similar to what the US is doing. This is incredibly important when we start discussing the Bitcoin supply shock. Now, this plays into the charts and what we're about to look at to the upside and what is in store for the upside for Bitcoin this cycle. And I want to read this post that I just made because from an analysis perspective, it's very important. I'm going to do it very quickly. If you don't want to sit here and read through this with me, you can go right to the timestamp. But I'm telling you, right here is the thesis for what I think is going to be a parabolic, unprecedented market cycle for Bitcoin and crypto. So Bitcoin just broke $107,000. And here we go. Game theory dynamics are becoming very real. Bitcoin's price has always been driven by its supply shock. We know that. We zoomed out on the Bitcoin charts. That's why the yellow line and the Bitcoin halving on pretty much any model that you see, the 4-year cycles of Bitcoin, these halvings, these are key areas to focus on foundationally to Bitcoin parabolic cycles. And that plays into the supply shock. Now, scarcity is becoming undeniable. If governments operating with massive financial power start accumulating Bitcoin, it could trigger a supply crunch unlike anything we've seen. And a lot of this has to do with how quickly are governments going to do this. We see US, Trump potentially within the first 100 days going to implement the Bitcoin US reserve. Other countries, it seems, are going to follow quickly. They seem like they're already trying to keep up with what is speculatively about to happen with the US. These governments are also unlikely to short-term trade. Their holdings would remain largely illiquid for extended periods, reducing the available supply even more. This government adoption would disrupt all current pricing models, even the one that we're about to look at. And especially the diminishing return model. We're talking about a new demand curve for Bitcoin, one driven by global competition among nations. We're entering a new era for crypto. So I have this chart, and this is generally, put aside all of this stuff. If this was not happening, governments, Bitcoin adoption, restrictions being lifted, crypto, adoption across the globe. If none of these things were happening, I would be sitting here in a regular Bitcoin analysis video, and we'd be discussing this model, right? The higher high model, the diminishing return model. And if we go back, just to give you a sense of this, here is Bitcoin from the Bitcoin halving to all-time high that cycle, 9,400%, right around there. And then the next cycle from the Bitcoin halving, where price was, to all-time high, around 3,000%, right? This move around 3,000%. And then last cycle from Bitcoin halving to all-time high around 600 some percent. And with this trajectory that Bitcoin is on, if it's following that diminishing return pattern, we'd be looking at around 175% returns from Bitcoin halving. And we'd be looking at around a $200,000 Bitcoin. This is the traditional model for Bitcoin. And this might be what happens, right? Maybe we don't get all this government adoption so quickly, and this is generally what happens. But the question is, when we see statistics like this, the last 30 days seen more than $3 billion per day entering Bitcoin network, and we don't even have something like the United States starting to accumulate something along the tune of 200,000 Bitcoin per year, what could this chart look like if this begins happening in the shorter to midterm? I'm not talking about years away from happening anymore, right? Previous cycles, institutional speculative adoption was in play back here, and government adoption was just a dream back here and all back here every cycle. But right now, what happens if this becomes reality? Because on this chart, yes, we have our nice inverse head and shoulders. We broke out of the neckline of the inverse head and shoulders. We have a target range, 2 targets, right? The lower end 130, the upper end close to 300,000. That's fine. And the diminishing returns around $200,000 target, that's fine. That range is fine. And it's looking really good right now. But if you sprinkle in this government race, global government race to accumulate Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin, what will Bitcoin supply shock do? And how might this cycle look different, even from just a timeline perspective? You know, time frame wise, I think we have somewhere in October, maybe late September is when a bull market might end for Bitcoin and crypto this cycle. But if we have this supply shock happening, how much higher could Bitcoin go? And for how much longer? Maybe we get our traditional target to 200 or, 150 to 200, and then we're consolidating, but we're not entering a typical bear market, right? Maybe we're just consolidating to a certain area and then going higher for longer. I really think we're entering a new era for not only Bitcoin, but crypto, because Bitcoin and this potential growth that we're about to see really plays into crypto. Because you better believe, just as institutions, they started with Bitcoin, their interest on Bitcoin, they very quickly shifted to what? Ethereum ETF, altcoin ETFs. Governments will do the same thing, especially from an underlining, technological perspective, realizing Bitcoin's the store of value and all these other blockchains and crypto offer such innovation for governments, right? Not only just for enterprise, but for government. So this cycle truly can be different. Let's zoom in on price. That's zoomed out clearly. Let's zoom in on price. Right now, I really am watching. If we go to the 6 hour, just to really get a sense of the structure that's been happening right now, higher highs, higher low channel. We're going to get a sense of what could happen next if we look at just history and previous moves on the chart. But there it is on the 6 hour. We obviously an hour away from this 6 hour candle closing, and we should probably move this swing high trend line back here. We should probably move it up a little bit. But you can just see right now, Bitcoin testing this upper end of this area on this 6 hour chart. We change it back to a daily chart, and then we have Bitcoin. Just the question that I have over the next 7 hours, because the move is right here, right now. How will the Bitcoin daily candle close within the next 7 hours? Right now, Bitcoin just under 107,000. That upper trend line is less than 0.5% away. It's like just above $107,000. And if Bitcoin can close a daily candle outside of this range, outside of that upper trend line, we really do have this move to the $115,000, $120,000 area very much in play. On the daily chart, again, if you zoom out, it's incredible to look at the similarities of this move that was happening back here in October. I know I talk about it a lot, but why would we not, right? Bitcoin has a history of just moving in similar ways. So that area where it just kind of blasted off to this consolidation into the 20 and then these swing highs, we can bring this over and you can just see Bitcoin, the similarities here. So the breakout out of this trend line, and then the continuation to, this fractal is leading to 120,000 plus, but you can just see how this continuation of the Bitcoin move can very much be in play. And by the way, this wasn't the end of it. There was obviously consolidation there, but it just kept going higher, right? So if we really want to take that fractal from this swing low to swing high and then bring it over to Bitcoin, we get even more powerful sense of what could be in store with obviously a lot of volatility. Look at this. Look at that just rising channel right there. A lot of volatility, revisiting all the way back down here, just above 100, and then making its move into this massively bullish range that we have here. Look at that. Close to the $200,000 area that we just talked about. So the Bitcoin bull cycle is very much in play, is very much happening right now, I think, before our eyes. If we go back and we even look at last cycle at this moment, you can just see Bitcoin was just at altcoin season beginning, consolidating, and then just going higher. There was a lot of things that stifled the growth of the last bull market. And the clearest just differentiation that I see is there are a lot of things this cycle so far that are not stifling the Bitcoin bull market, that are actually fueling what could be a super cycle, what could be a cycle that we've never seen before. So this is my analysis on Bitcoin right now. Obviously, I'm going to keep watching the short term, but it's really the zoomed out, and it's really what's happening with Bitcoin supply shock from a global perspective. There's a global race happening right now to accumulate Bitcoin. And it is interesting to see how this plays out in the Bitcoin chart. So if you're out there, you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Turn notifications on. I'm going to continue doing Bitcoin analysis, altcoin analysis, crypto news, all of that good stuff. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting the like button. Your support means a lot. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.